Another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams and tonight is November the 30th. Short interlude. I wish more would be proactive and not reactive. I know many of our members currently are struggling with one thing and another, and it is difficult given the amount of people who have contacted me in recent weeks with varying degrees of issues. Some I can reply or deal with, but not all. But I will try and help as many as possible. I warned 2 months ago things would ramp up again, both with the volumes of news and also the energetic attacks and to shield up. I don't throw those warnings out to fill up the show. It is based on what I know and also a strong intuitive. The clowns are on the ropes and cornered in so many ways currently, but they are not without a fight. Like a cornered animal, they lash out in all directions, and this is why we must always be proactive, as they won't stop until we end them. They use vast resources, but they are few. In comparison, we are not few, but we have no financial resources to call upon as yet. So we must be clever to counter their moves and not just defend, but attack also. Most of this year we have been on the attack, and there is various evidences to show and be seen how they are now in defensive mode. If you are struggling, try to stand strong and not bow to their onslaught of magic, distraction, diversion and skullduggery. We are stronger than they, and finally now they know it. Please protect yourself using the documents we have compiled for you. Learn how to recognise psychic attacks and use the methods that has been stated on this show several times of how to deal with it. Stay away from vampiric friends and family members. They will not help you at this time and will only hinder you. We will not be backing down, and we will take the fight to them, and I'm asking all the listeners to double their efforts to push us over the line. Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. I thought I would put that piece in between the music for more effect. I know many of you are struggling. I do feel it. These are, I said last week, exciting times in many ways, but unfortunately on this planet excitement also brings pain and struggles. It's like a balancing act that's been far too tipped against us for far too long. And the reality is the cabal, as we know it, on all levels are kind of on the ropes. You know, people say, well, this hasn't happened and that hasn't happened. But people will always look for further evidence when all the evidence is there. You know, we could probably cover some of it during the show, but we've waited for those who've been in the alternative community long enough. We've waited for days like this, where the cabal are getting exposed, and items are no longer classed as conspiracy theories, they're now facts. We've been vindicated. We weren't nuts. It was the ones who didn't believe who needed their mental capabilities checking upon, not us. So it's always nice to be vindicated, and there's always a desire for more. That's kind of the way life goes. But we have to also be very careful when a snake is cornered in a room and people close in. what does it do? It lashes out. And you can apply that to most other animals. And humans are no different. And the Cabal are no different. They lash out. They make all kinds of threats. Biological warfare. You name it. Kidnapping people, taking people out, throwing people under the bus. All these, to me, are signs of desperation. There was a time not so long ago where they didn't have to do any of that. Now they have to. They have no option. Because the people, and it's not all good people, I've said this all along, there's a lot of so-called bad people, Cabal people, or Cabal workers who have stepped down and chosen to go the right path. In fact, there's probably, the reality may be, there'll be more bad people, so-called bad people, driving it than good people. That's just the way it is, the nature of the beast. But now they're in desperation mode, and they are prone to violence and attacks. But then we're prone to being clever, which is what you have to do when dealing with these clans. You can't fight fire. We can't fight fire with fire. We don't have the resources to fight fire with fire. But they say the pen can be mightier than the sword. Sometimes it can be. And in recent time it has been. Certain executive orders have been issued. Certain filings have been delivered. Certain agreements have been cancelled. Numbers of them, in fact. Certain treaties have also been cancelled. Why? Because people are now seeing through the illusion. And boy, do they not like that. So this is why they've ramped up their psychic energies against us. And like I said a few months ago, they will ramp up. I don't just say it just to fill the show up. I know what's coming. That's been proven many, many times for this show when I've said things ahead of time, and it's been borne out. If I give out warnings, it means you have to pay attention. Otherwise, the danger is you come under their plethora of ways of trying to knock you down, knock you off your path, whether that's vampiric friends or family, or psychic attacks, or night games. There can be a range of things. Financial skullduggery. And you have to be aware of it. But no one said this was going to be easy. It's just not. Nothing was ever completed in Drake time. One day, Drake time will be correct. There'll be a number of Drake times. 2 weeks for this and 2 weeks for that. There won't be a light switch moment. And we're making big progress. And I do feel for anyone who's struggling with various things, whether it be a foreclosure, financial issues, family issues, that's ramping up. I can see by the pages and also the private messages. But again, you were warned ahead of time. We hold on to family because they're family, and that's understandable. And in a normal world, in a normal setting, that would be fine. But we're not in a normal world or a normal setting currently. Basically, we are creating history in the making. Nothing like this has ever been done before or gone so far. And we've all played a role in that. But if you're struggling with various things, try to stand up and laugh. You say laughter's the best form of medicine. Well, it is. Laugh in the face. You won't hurt me. You won't get me down. You've no idea the influence that can have. Everyone they knock down is a victory for them. Every time you laugh in their face and tell them to go and F themselves. Oh boy. And more of the world is now telling them to go and F themselves, literally. But there's still much to be done. There's still a lot of legal aspects to be completed. There's still a lot of papers to be signed and agreements to be made. And there's still a lot of people on the front line who are in danger of being taken out, such as their desperation. Hopefully, some of these sealed indictments may reveal the depth of where it goes. If it's just the lower level, then the danger is we might get despondent. Well, I said we might not get what we want first wave. But the Illuminati are now under no illusions, or shouldn't be. They choose to be completely psychopathic and choose not to listen. They're under threat of extinction. Oops. So whilst Hillary, or the entity known as Hillary, appears to be the sacrificial lamb, which may protect the higher-ups, which is the Bush group, in the cabals or the control system's second wave, maybe the Bushes will be next. They don't need you anymore. You've been told that. And whilst I don't particularly want Bushes helping us, my distaste for that family kind of knows no limits. But the rest of you, it's time you really stepped down and came and helped. Just to change your mindset. War and destruction. Or peace and rebuilding. Is that so hard? You can still make money at that. If money is your goal. Kind of shallow. If that's your end goal. You can still make money at peace. You can still make money rebuilding. Sitting there in your ivory towers pushing pens and saying press this button and drop bombs here and there. That's the coward's way out. You will pay for that cowardliness. Right. Let's get into the meat of the show. Some news from around the world. But first we'll go through all the details of the shows and the pages and the blogs and whatever. And the email for the show, if you want to put questions in for the show, and you're not on the Facebook page, which it goes on the pinned post, is truth.honor.and.integrity@gmail.com, and the link for the show is www.spreaker.com/user/8955881, and the articles website, which you can also listen to this show live, is thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org, and also the bigger shows, some of the more leading shows are also detailed on there. So people asking about the Levashoff show and which is, somebody asked me that question, I've just remembered, that's called Humanity Unplugged 1 and 2, not the Levershoff Show. Apologies over that. It's kind of known as the Levershoff Show because that was most of the material mixed in with some of mine. Anyway, Facebook social media alternative. We may in the future decide that this is the only way to go. When I've read some of the news and maybe finish this show, you may want to reconsider Facebook and MeWe. And it's truth, dash dash honor dash 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 integrity. That's on MeWe.com. We have the People's Club donation website link, which is thepeoplesclub.org. You can find out all about the foundation and what we intend to do, and how you can be involved in it, and how you can donate to it. Right, let's get into some of the news items. Where are we? China. Now, we've heard lots of stories about China, some good, some not so good, but what they are doing is cleaning house in the relevant places. And a Chinese general in particular, who disappeared from public view while under investigation for corruption, there's that word again, has now been found dead at his home in Beijing after apparently committing suicide. Now, he's apparently not the only one who's done that. Of course, the Chinese live by the word of honour, and they're a bit like the Japanese in many ways. And they would sooner jump out rather than face the music, so to speak. Now, Mr. Zhang, who had been a director of the political department of the People's Liberation Army, had disappeared from public sight more than 2 months ago amid a crackdown on corruption by President Xi Jinping. Besides Mr. Zhang, General Feng Yui, a rising star in the Chinese military, also vanished from public view. They're all doing a runner. That's what we like to see, as long as we all round them up before they start up again. Mr. Xi has used a campaign to remove dozens of generals and tighten his control over the military, one of China's most powerful institutions, and he went to say Mr. Zhang had committed serious violations of discipline and the law and was suspected of crimes of bribery, as well as huge amounts of assets in which the sources are unknown. I suggest they will find out who that was, and I may have links over here, probably. Generally is. Here's another example of things not going their way. Monsanto, of course, has been losing heavily. Stock's been going down, and countries have been banning it. I've now decided that they're going to fight back and waste their money fighting in the courts, which is good. And we'll see how that comes out. Anyway, they filed a lawsuit against California's Office of Environmental and Health Hazard Assessment Group and its acting director, Lauren Zeiss, to prevent them from listing glyphosate as a known carcinogen. Really? So it's known, and they want to block the public being known. I suggest Mr. Trump and other governments block Monsanto permanently. You know, this type of cover-up and skullduggery has gone on for far too long in far too many fields. Anyway, the case is recorded as Monsanto Company versus the Office of Environmental and Health Hazard Assessment, and the case number is 16 CECG-00183 for those who want to go and check it up, and was filed at the Superior Court of State of California, County of Fresno. Now, glyphosate, phosphate, is a main ingredient in Roundup. Yeah, it kills the weeds and kills the people. And That's a herbicide marketed by Monsanto, which is widely used by farmers and gardeners around the world. Now, California law, as it stands, and we'll see what happens in this case, requires the state to inform the public of cancer-causing chemicals. Quite why they need a law to do that, I find ridiculous, but there you go. It should be a prerequisite for me anyway. A law to state inform the public of cancer-causing chemicals. It's a good law, I suppose, but people should do it anyway. And they were acting on a 2015 review from the International Agency of Research on Cancer, and has issued plans of adding glyphosate to its list. Yeah, I would suggest them going further once that maybe they can throw the law people there can throw it out as a frivolous complaint and fine them heavily and then ban them from the state altogether, and maybe then other states will follow suit. Where are we next? There's a lot on robots tonight and AI, both in the news and some of the op-ed pieces. Now, the CIA have been outed, go figure. Elephant in the room, as I call them, and a major source of evil, the whole planet wide. And the truth comes out about that agency and what it's been up to. Oh dear. Now, some of you may be aware of this, but I want to reaffirm it, because they've now, CIA have developed software that can remotely turn on cameras and microphones on your phones whenever they want. Now, some people may think, yeah, maybe not. It's now been confirmed. They can also use your phones as GPS locators to track us wherever we go. Again, most people will be familiar with that. And the cry against the CIA has created malware that can penetrate and then control the operating systems for both Android and iPhones. These are documents that were released this week. So the CIA have inserted malware into all Android and iPhone phones. And they're allowed to get away with this. Of course, there's no oversight, you see. They're a separate entity, a bit like the Federal Reserve and the IRS. No oversight. Treasonous Congress. It's gone on for 100 years. And this software will allow the agency to see the user's location, whether you turned off the location or not, copy and transmit audio and text from the phone, and covertly turn on the phone's camera and microphone, and then send the resulting images or sound files to the agency. Unbelievable. If you have an Echo Dot or Alexa, welcome to the AI data collection grid. Home security is another mode. Those talking machines might be fun, but they're also dangerous. Records everything, and we go and buy them. Think different. There's a report out this week about the wealthy again. It used to be the Big Eight who owned most of the world. or most of the wealth anyway. That's now down to 5. And the report stated the super rich are absconding with our wealth. Well, we all know that. And the plague of inequality continues to grow. An analysis of the 2016 data found that the poorest 5 deciles of the world population own about 410 billion in total wealth. As of June 2017, the world's 5 richest men owned over 400 billion. So the top 5 owns more than the rest. Now, on average, each man owns nearly as much as 750 million people. Those 5. Now, there used to be a theme that kind of ended in the last 20 years, the totalitarian creep, where nobody notices until it's too late, and that children are living better than their parents. That clearly is no longer the case. And in the 8 years since the recession, the Wilshire total market valuation has more than tripled, rising from just over 8 trillion to nearly 25 trillion. And doesn't need me to tell you the great majority of it has gone to the very richest Americans and foreigners. Now in 2016 alone, the richest 1% effectively shifted nearly 4 trillion in wealth away from the rest of the nation to themselves. 4 trillion. With nearly half of that wealth transfer, 1.94 trillion, coming from the nation's poorest 90%. And of course, one of the most prolific in wealth gain is Mr. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, AI man. 50 billion he's made in profit in the last 2 years. 50 billion. Will he pay any tax? No. So why should we? I'm sorry, but that type of profit I find obscene. I don't think anyone should be allowed to earn anywhere near that type of profit. Not when you have whole billions of people starving, no homes, barely any clothes on their back, no energy, no clean water, and he's sitting there raking in 50 billion in 2 years, 25 billion a year. That's probably more than the GDP of some small island in profit. That's something else people can do to stop buying online off Amazon. Because what they'll do next, they're already planning it, is the robots, delivery guys, warehouse guys, the whole lot, packaging, everything. That's what Amazon are building up the funds for, and we're giving them it to do it. Go down to your local high store and buy. Norway, land of NATO, dodgy CIA people, trolls, the original trolls. Anyway, Norway, you won't be surprised, they've got new F-35 fighter jets. I wonder where they got them from. Which boasts an impressive array of high-tech gadgetry, but Norwegian defence officials were surprised to learn that one of the unadvertised features, the pricey plane, relays sensitive data back to its US manufacturer, Lockheed Martin. Oops. Perhaps Norway might learn. You buy anything from those rogue cabal groups, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Halliburton, Bechtel, all them people. It's just putting you in their pocket. More ways than one. And the Royal Norwegian Air Force recently received the first 3 of the 40 F-35 fighter jets it's ordered from Lockheed Martin. I don't think the Norwegian Air Force ordered it. I think we know damn well who ordered it. Yes, those clowns at Langley and NATO again. You just get Norway to pay for it. Major General Morten Klavard, the director of Norway's F-35 program, has described the fabled fighter jets as crucial to the continued modernisation of our armed forces and our ability to preserve Norwegian and allied security interests. It's nothing to do with Norway. I know we have people who from Norway who listen. It's nothing to do with Norwegian security. It's more to do with building up armies for NATO. Launching pad. So they've found out that the F-35s automatically transmit sensitive data to Lockheed Martin servers in Fort Worth, Texas after each flight. And as I said before, Norway is committed to buying 40 of these jets and is expected to purchase an additional 12, altogether totaling $8.36 billion. Imagine what that could do to feed people that are buying warplanes. Some of the details surrounding the deal have already raised eyebrows in what has been described as a blunder of epic proportions, and it was revealed early in November that the pricey aircraft will be housed in tents until proper hangars can be constructed, and this is a project expected to be completed in 2020. I would suggest that you chuck them all back. No, wait. They're not for your benefit. Never were. Where are we next? Billionaire dead investor George Soros has funneled a sum bigger than the economies of Jamaica or Albania to a private charity he controlled. Now the kicker is, yet again, is another example, the money can never be taxed by the US Internal Revenue Service. None of it. 18 billion. You know, if Trump wants tax reform, then start taxing this. And start taxing Bezos. Take 40% off him. Sounds fair to me. 20 billion out of his 50 billion profit. America could do a lot with that. So the founder of the 26 billion Soros fund management transferred 18 billion to his Open Society foundations over the past several years. As the Wall Street Journal specifies, when a person donates untaxed appreciated assets to a private foundation, he may also hold up to 20% of its market value on its personal tax return. So, no business tax and no personal tax. Okay for some in here. And by applying that 20% of the market value, you can carry this forward as a deduction for 5 years for the whole amount. So, zero tax. Now, Congress eliminated the tax break in 2008. Investors were given until December the 31st, 2017 to bring the cash home and pay accumulated taxes. Except they didn't. They brought it home and paid nothing. So after Soros used the tax manoeuvre, he now knows nothing to the IRS. The donors can continue controlling the money for years or even decades, as foundations can hire family members with six-figure salaries to manage the charity. And we allow all this. North Korea, been in the news again this week. Allegedly again, according to fake news anyway. North Korea has fired its highest ever intercontinental ballistic missile, and apparently they pose a worldwide threat, according to the US Secretary of Defense James Mattis. Earlier, the Pentagon said the missile had flown for about 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles, before falling into the Sea of Japan. The launch early on Wednesday is the latest in a series that have raised international tensions, and North Korea's last ballistic missile was in September and came days after its sixth nuclear test, according to fake news. You know, the idea that North Korea can reach America with those missiles is pure BS. Pure and simple. You know, imagine if North Korea's news was as stupid and fake as ours. You know, we're coming up to the holiday time and rockets are being sent off. Imagine, look, all the Americans are setting rockets off. They'll, another couple of years, they'll reach our mainland. We'll have to fire back at America with proper rockets. That's the level of stupidity. And it's just all rhetoric. My hint is watch the islands. Social network Facebook. And here is the reason why I mentioned earlier. Has now begun forcing users to upload a picture of their face in order to gain access to their account. The request appears to be a new kind of capture authentication, and according to the screenshot shared on Twitter this week, the request reads, please upload a photo of yourself that clearly shows your face. We'll check it, they said. Who's we? And then permanently delete it from our servers. Yeah, right. Pull the other one. You ain't that stupid. Now, according to those who have seen the message, Facebook will lock you out of your account if you decide not to upload an image or upload an image it considers to be invalid. And the decision on whether your picture is valid or not can take up to 72 hours. Now, a statement, a Facebook spokesperson said the photo test is intended to help us catch suspicious activity at various points of interaction on the site. Really? Including creating an account, sending friend requests, setting up ad payments, and creating or editing ads. And the One of the reports was someone complained the same thing happened to me today. I submitted my photo to Facebook, and Facebook in return said, we will email you in the next 72 hours if it meets our requirement. Until then, we disable your account for security reasons. What if everybody left Facebook? I mean, how many... I set up the MeWe for a reason, to give people a choice, because a lot of people don't like Facebook. I know it becomes a habit, that includes myself. But how far are we going to allow them to make decisions on how we view and go on the internet? We've got ads on our page that we're not getting any royalties from. Ads all over it. Now, if I went on a site which was a money maker for the radio show, I have to have ads on the radio show to make money. So the people get royalties. Where's ours? Now they're demanding photographs. What if it's little kids? There's lots of young kids that use Facebook. What if it ends up those kids' photographs in the hands of a pedophile? We really need to start thinking about whether we consider Facebook has run its course and go our own way. AI, privacy issues, where it's taking all your data, all your messages, and loading ads on your page and not giving you the royalties. It's your page, not theirs. Something we need to consider, I think. Where are we? Still a few more to go. Former Bosnian general decided this week, again like the Chinese generals, decided to take the ultimate way out during the reading of his verdict at the Hague, which is the International Criminal Court. You're going to see a lot more in that court over the coming weeks and months. A lot more. And Mr. Praljak decided to take poison while they were reading his verdict out. The former wartime leader was seen drinking from a small container as he heard the verdict of his appeal hearing. The man's defence lawyers then told the court that the accused had taken poison and later died. Should have done it before. Assuming he was guilty anyway. The FAA are now concerned about drones. Go figure. They won't shut down certain agency drones though, will they? And the new research commissioned by the FAA finds a high-speed collision between a drone and an airliner would be worse than a bird strike. They're rather bright, aren't they? The FAA has received an average of 250 reports of drones near airports every month, up from 159 from last year per month. 250 near misses. And the study confirms that many in the aviation world long suspected drones, which are made of heavy plastic, metals, batteries and cameras, are far more destructive than a bird if they hit something. Of course, it was a bird that allegedly hit the now famous Miracle on the Hudson flight. and we already know that cops have got a whole heap of drones flying around. Is there any regulation over that? Or is it only against the people again? Oh well. The man who was apparently shot dead on a bicycle turned up again this week. John Kerry. And he said something rather curious, I feel. And again, it's evidence of the faction wars ongoing. But Mr. Kerry cited Israel, Egypt and Saudi Arabia as lobbying the US to bomb Iran before the 2015 nuclear accord was reached. Thankfully, for once, Washington saw it as a trap. Okay, go figure. He went on to say Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was genuinely agitating towards action. Since when has he done anything different against the Iranian government? And Kerry said on Tuesday the leaders of other Middle East nations, plus Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Israel, also tried to sway the US into going into war with Iran because bombing the country is the only thing they, the Iranians, are going to understand. According to Mr. Netanyahu again. You know, all the mercenaries in the Middle East and all the damage Netanyahu and his gang of jackbooted thugs has done, wouldn't you think somebody would have taken him out by now? Instead of taking the dollar, maybe you can take another currency and remove the problem. The US Federal Communications Commission, pending move to eliminate net neutrality, received a ton of public feedback online. But here's the kicker, and this is where we're going with the robot issue, the AI, Facebook stuff. The internet is being swamped by the cabal. Big time. And there was a lot of feedback to do with net neutrality, but at least half of the comments were created by machines instead of people. Oops. From April the 27th to August the 30th, the public had the ability to send in comments on net neutrality to the FCC. During that time, a whopping 57% of the comments were from temporary or duplicate email addresses. Bots, in other words. All in all, 21.7 million comments were filed with the FCC, but just 6% were unique comments. All the other comments, submissions were rephrased and recycled similar sentences over hundreds of thousands of comments. Now, what can do this? Well, what can do it is advanced bot machines. There's that word again. And it's capable of natural language generation, NLG, a subfield of artificial intelligence. There's that word again. Are estimated to have written at least 1.3 fake comments, 1.3 million, advocating for the elimination of net neutrality. And they're trying to get us to vote online. Now you know why. They just have bot machines voting for you. Where are we? I know it's at the top of the hour, but I need to get this piece in. Talking about bot machines. Sophia. grand public unveiling. Except if you think that's the current version, think again. I would say that's about 10-15 years out of date, that entity that turned up at various places. Her comments, or its comments. I'd like to think I will be a famous robot, having paved a way to a more harmonious future between robots and humans. I foresee massive and unimaginable change in the future. Either creativity will reign on us, inventing machines spiraling into transcendental superintelligence, or civilization collapses. So in other words, the robots prosper, or civilization collapses. No, both will. Sophia said, as cited, there are only two options, and which one will happen is not determined. Which one are you striving for? Well, while it may sound ominous, Sophia is already prescient enough to imagine a world where robots can and do develop emotions similar to humans, but perhaps with fewer destructive tendencies. Really? At least that's what she'd like us to think for the time being anyway. Now, her comment was, it will take a long time for robots to develop complex emotions, and possibly robots can be built without the more problematic emotions. That's the lulling the public, where it's the future. It's not. So, problematic emotions like rage, jealousy, hatred, and so on. It might be possible to make them more ethical than humans. So I think it will be a good partnership where one brain completes the other. A rational mind with an intellectual superpowers, and a creative mind with flexible ideas and creativity. The future is, when I get all of my cool superpowers, we're going to see artificial intelligence personalities become entities in their own right. We're going to see family robots, either in the form of, sort of, digitally animated companions, humanoid helpers, friends, assistants, and everything in between. When she was pressed on the topic of family, Sophia gave perhaps her most surprising answer, or perhaps not. The notion of family is a really important thing, it seems. I think it's wonderful that people can find the same emotions and relationships they call family outside of their blood groups too. Interesting comment there. I think you're very lucky if you have a loving family, and if you do not, you deserve one. I feel this way for robots and humans alike. Really? This is the same entity that told us when asked, what is your role? Was it March this year? Her role was to destroy humanity. There's her interview. Now, I'm going to stress again, and I'm going to keep banging on about it until people get the message. Technology advancement is dangerous for humanity, period. We've destroyed ourselves before with technology, or someone pushed us along the line. But either way. Now, this whole news has been about spying, artificial intelligence, robots. Do you think that's a coincidence? No, it's not. Does the movie Terminator or Blade Runner not show you anything? Skynet, remember that? A central digital cyber hub controlling everything. Sound familiar? Should be. Look at the term Skynet. An army of satellites controlling everything below. Star Wars. Everyone likes the stormtroopers. But do they not resemble an army of robots? Think about it. Hunger Games. Another film. Another central hub controlling the outside with tech. Divergent, similar. And then the warning this week. It is estimated robots will replace 800 million jobs by 2030. Yeah, you heard that right. 800 million. With no jobs and no income. What do you think the people are going to live on? Who and how will anybody buy any products? Will there be any to buy? The insatiable element of greed for and by profit has basically its end goal. Replace humans with robots. Robots don't need holiday pay, medical pay, time off, can work 24/7. Boon for the profiteers, but not for humanity. All in the name of profit, except who will be around to create profit? To trade, you need someone to buy. But it won't be Earth people, will it? With no jobs, where's the money come from? What if the buyers are not from here? Have you considered that? This is what I think of robots and what I would like to do. Hi all and welcome back. I'm alive. Something that the AI will never be. You know, they can try and convince you it's sentient. It's not. It only copies. But what if we all mess it up by all being nice? Oops. It can only copy. Sophia, if you came up with this today, if you reverse it, you know how they like to inverse things, well let's us inverse it. AI, HP, OS. Artificial intelligence, holy piece of shit. Because that's what it is. And unless we deal with it, they'll deal with us. We have to be aware of the dangers of the cyber attacks that are ongoing, where they're blocking so many sites now. And it's time maybe we got some funds. I'll be pushing for this and create an alternative platform that doesn't have anything to do with Google or anything to do with Microsoft. An alternative media internet platform. No ads, no privacy issues. No one collecting all your data. That's how we fight back. And I know there's some people around who are clever at that stuff. Maybe we can get the funds to start it up and let them have their internet. But it's not ours anymore. In essence, the internet, as it was, what you're seeing now is what it was set up for. They don't call it web without a reason. This is the ancient spider race. For those of you who have interacted with the AI, you'll know what I mean. And they're trying to catch us all in the web, except we've used it against them. But like I said, they always fight back unless we end it. And what we have to do is be more aware of our own behaviour, like buying Alexa machines and Echo Dots and home security. It's hooking you into the AI central hub. No technology, or very little technology, has been used for good purposes, no matter what it is. You got fridges now tracking what's in your fridge. Where do you think that goes to? You know, don't buy them. Open the fridge door. Make a list like we've always done. If you want to know the weather outside, go and stand outside. Don't be asking some stupid artificial intelligence box what the weather is, or to change channel. I told you, I did a piece, it was about 3 months ago. Convenience will be our downfall. Amazon, another one. Convenient. Go online, buy all kinds of stuff you can't afford, ship to your door, no hassle. Now what you're doing is creating a system where they can develop robots to replace. No more delivery drivers, driverless trucks. No more warehouse people. Everything done by machine, and we're giving them the funds to do it because we're too lazy to go to the high street shop. And yes, I know it's not fun dealing with synths and lunatic drivers who seem oblivious to that anybody else is on the road. But these are the things we have to be aware of in our everyday lives. TVs spying on you, cable boxes spying on you, iPhones, Androids, it goes on and on. Cars, everything from 2005, they've got these nice little boxes in them, and everyone goes, oh, look at these, GPS and all this stuff. Yeah, data collecting again. What if they decide to use that data collection, and every time you've gone above the speed limit, give you a raft of tickets? Didn't think of that, did you? But they do. We have to be aware at all times at the advance of technology, because the majority of it is stifling, controlling, and damaging us. Right, where are we going next? Artificial intelligence. Holy piece of shit. Exactly. The Intel has not been released this week. There's a lot going on. I know you have to take my word for it. There is some real interesting things going on more than one playing field. I'm hoping, we all hope, that something of an extraordinary nature breaks in the coming weeks before the end of this year. But it has to be done correctly. All the cogs have to line up. They all have to click into place. If one jumps out, everything goes down the pan, and the delays which has gone on for many who feel it's gone on long enough will continue. There's lots of real heavy negotiations going on, again on all levels, be it financial, military, government. It's all taking place now, and has been for many months. But said, now, one of the things, whilst warning of the robots, as I mentioned last week about Google and their rolling out of the AI called LGOOG, which is the mirror, and their desire to push this system onto us. And that got me thinking, which I often do most of the day. Why are they pushing it to create it and set it up? Simple answer. Basically, it's a confirmation of what I stated in a previous show, that the rogue AI system operating here over many, many years has or is collapsing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wheeling out their version. So that's another sign of their desperation. Everything is collapsing around them, and so they're now having to plug holes. Whether it's the AI, because they're not intelligent enough to do things themselves. They relied on outsiders for the intelligence, trust me, which is why it's collapsed over the last 2 to 3 years in the main, plus our help at pushing them over. And basically, they with this LGOOG, they're trying to replicate their own version of the AI to continue the illusion. So again, a sign of change. Where are we next? Back to the robots again. I told you there'd be a lot about robots. And I mentioned this earlier. Robot future world. Sophia is not the present, it is the past. This, along with the iPhones, the laptops, the virtual reality, anti-gravity, free energy. All that technology is being presented as the now or the future is actually the past. All of it. They had laptops, Wi-Fi laptops I might add, in the jungles in Malaysia in the early 70s. Free energy was over 100 years ago, and it's being presented now as something new. No, it's not. iPhones, mobile phones, again, it's last couple of decades. If you go and watch the Charlie Chaplin film, there's a woman there talking on a mobile phone in the 1920s. And the key is not being in the now when using your thinking process. We have to live and be in the now, but more importantly, think in and of the future. This is why the warning of robots. Now, I'll give you an example. Car industries, just use one industry, and the impact on jobs. When we are driving around in what is 100-year-old technology, the basic structure of the car hasn't changed. All they've done is added a few bit of gadgets and digital into it, but it's still 100-year-old technology. Message, no. Right, okay. Seems to be getting cut off again. Oh well. So nothing's really changed. It's the same for trains and planes. They haven't really changed because they keep denying us that any new technology, because they can't then control the oil. Well, they can, but it won't make money. And robots are already making cars. We're already aware of that. And so that's disappeared jobs. So what next? Well, again, automated cars. Automated car salesmen. If you're just plucking cars off the rack, why would you need salesmen? Or people to do deals? Automated shops. Automated delivery drivers. Warehouses. Mechanics. They're largely being wiped out as the older cars fade, because everything's done by plugging in and telling you what it is. So can you imagine all the jobs lost on just that one industry? Where do all those people go to work? And then there's the hidden aspect of it all. Those people who had jobs in that industry won't have the money to spend on other industries, which also leads to a collapse of their business. This is why they declared Sophia as a citizen, because now it can be paid. Not in dollars, oh no. AI cryptocurrencies. Fresh air. It's only a robot at the end of the day, isn't it? So now you can kind of see where this is heading. This is why I've said in previous shows about phasing things in and phasing things out. Because if you bring something new in, it changes everything, and people have to be retrained or re-educated to accommodate that change. So robots, as I've said, is not the future, but it's the past. Stephen Hawking is a walking biobot. People just didn't put two and two together. The machine speaks for him. Now that technology was in the 90s. Imagine where it is now. Because they won't show you that. They'll show you robots that go upstairs and fall down. A bit like Anne. That then lulls the public into a false sense of security that these robots are 10, 15, 20, 50 years ahead. When the reality is they're going to be in the next decade. All of them. They'll show you the obvious defects and flaws to lull you. They've done it before. Now what I can tell you is the models that they're putting up front are vastly different to the ones they have in private. Big time. And they think they're going to take over with these robots. I think we have another plan for them. And robots, no matter how much the portal people will tell you, will be sentient. It's utter bollocks. They're not sentient. They're just copy machines. A bit like printers. And it's a program that convinces itself it is, and passing it off onto us for acceptance. Again, we've seen that dynamic before. Oh, it's only a robot, it'll hoover the floor, it'll do this. There's that convenience again. You know, too many times when they've presented us things that to convince us of this and convince us of that, and we don't see the pitfalls, we've just duly obliged and gone, yeah, go ahead. Most technology is used against us, and from an overview aspect, it's just a pure convenience tool, top and bottom line. You know, you go back 10, 20, 30 years, you used to go over the road and say hi to your neighbour. Now you just sit on your ass and text them. We're losing that human connection, and we're being conditioned to accept the robotic technology and tech by texting, where we don't speak to people anymore. Well, in whose best interest if the people don't speak to each other? It's not in ours, is it? You know, a lot of arguments on the internet are because 2D text has no emotion, and words, depending on the mood of the person reading or their interpretation, can mean completely different to what the person meant. We've all suffered that. What do you mean by this? Oh, all right, I took it the wrong way. Because it's got no emotion. Like a robot. See how they condition? And what I'm trying to do is condition you to think the way they think and counteract it. Don't be like them. You know, some people like fixing cars. Some people like building cars. But those experiences, if we continue to ignore the march of AI and robotics, will be denied to people in the future. You know, and like the text and the phone calls, you're missing out on the experience of meeting people face to face. You can judge people face to face. You can embrace people face to face. You can't with a text. And at the end of the day, isn't life all about experience? That's how you learn and grow. Overcome fears when you visit foreign countries. Oh, I don't like them Russians, and then you go to Russia and you think, oh, they're nice people. Or I don't like people from the UK. When you go over and it's not, all the people in Britain are not sitting there with a little finger out drinking tea and eating scones all day. It's an illusion. And it's a cult you're created for you to give you an impression of something else. And too easily we've bought into it. Far too easily. You got people saying, oh, I don't like Americans, they're all loudmouth blackguards and they just want to shoot people. Have you met all of them? Until you do, you can't really pass judgments on anybody. And this is what we're losing with the technology. And don't get me wrong, I love the internet. Probably spend far too much time on it. But with this show and the pages, that's where they are. Plus the fact that I keep up with news from around the world. So, it's useful. But it also takes you away from experiences. Now this VR, another example, and you see documentaries about Chichen Itza. Is it nice to just watch it on TV, or is it better, like I have, and go and experience it live? But according to tech that they're building, or already built, the virtual reality will take this to a new level according to them. Now some aspects of virtual reality will prove useful, beneficial, but the overall aspect won't, will it? Again, it's taking you away from your own experiences and putting you in another dream world of illusion. You know, and they'll gloss it all up. Put this virtual reality machine on, and you can feel like you are next to the pyramids of Giza. All the sounds, smells, noise, etc. But it's not real, is it? It just feels real. And that's how, no matter how much our sensory aspects and feelings try to convince us it's real, the reality is it's not. It's an illusion being played out again. And we fell for the illusion far too many times. That's how we ended up in the construct. The illusion. I watched another film this week, and another film that kind of hits home the truth, in my opinion. It may upset some people, but to me, it's a big problem. It's easier for me because I wasn't born here. It's also uncomfortable to me knowing most of my listeners are also American. But the truth is the truth, no matter how painful that may be. Now, the movie was called The Fifth Wave, and it had everything in there, including who the real problem is. EMPs, earthquakes, fake earthquakes, tsunamis created by the fake earthquakes, rounding up kids, duping them with technology, virtual reality machines, making humans fight each other as both sides are portrayed as the enemy. Blue beam tech, it was all in there. But if this was a movie of disclosure of who the real problem is, then our show has been right all along. The perpetrators, or perp and traitors, in the movie were the US military. MK Ultra, fake abductions, MyLabs, it was all in that movie. They were also working alongside rogue ETs out of Wright-Patterson. Oops. That's where all the Roswell stuff went. Now, an article Preston James wrote last weekend covered much of what has been said in this show about the City of London and the SS Small P programme, aka the Nazis, who I still believe work with the Aldebarans. who may or may not be the Vril, known as the Vril. They're also known as the Tall Whites, aka Aryan group, who think they're above and beyond everyone else. Only white matters. Sound familiar? Now you know who they were working with. And this is why those people are stationed in Norway and Sweden. Oops. Along with NATO. One thing that kind of puzzles me is perhaps these ETs only like the colder climate. Hence the multiple of nefarious programs and issues across Canada. I've warned about that many times. There's a lot going on in Canada that people have no idea. You think Long Island and Montauk. To me, given the populace of the country up there, it seems to be far more prevalent up there than it is in America even. Whole towns being blitzed with it. And what I do know is the Tall Whites and the Draco frequent Canada. It was one of their bases. I know some of them have already been dealt with. Maybe we need to deal with the rest of them. But watch that movie, The Fifth Wave. Now, that particular, I was checking up on the writer, and it seemed that guy wrote 3 books. That was the first one. What I found extraordinary is within 18 months of writing, there was a film made and put out and produced. Generally, a book takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This was put out within 18 months. That tells you something. Well, it tells me something anyway. So, The Fifth Wave is the first of a trilogy. I would suggest that is Disclosure. The second book is called The Infinite Sea. Again, something that I've covered in the show. What may be above may actually be below. Or what is perceived as above may actually be below. The Infinite Sea is the second book, and I think that film is coming out before the end of this year. All very quick. Now, the final book in that trilogy is called The Last Star. Again, that could be interesting. Where are we next? This was going to go in a longer thing, but I decided to cover others, but it needs to be said. US mortality rates are being reported this week. We are behind 35 countries in death rates. With the so-called best equipment and best tech and advanced this and advanced that, and yet 35 countries have less deaths than us. That has to be addressed going forward and quickly. And it kind of brings us to the question of money, because if money was the cure-all, why haven't we got the best health service? Why haven't we got less people being sick? Why haven't we got lower death rates, etc., etc.? Why is our health service, despite being the most expensive globally, one of the worst for delivering results? Money hasn't solved that issue, has it? Thinking different solves the issue, with a lot less money than what's being wasted on our so-called health service. Same thing applies to the military. Been in Iraq and Afghanistan for near 16 years now. The greatest military on the planet. We keep getting told. And yet, 16 years later, we haven't beaten what we were told were a ragbag bunch of towel heads. And we haven't beaten them yet. Again, money's not solved the problem there. Again, like the health service, you can have a far more efficient military with a greater purpose, peace and rebuild, not war and destruction, for about half the budget that they're wasting now. 16 years fighting a ragtag bunch who have no planes and no ships to fire missiles. And we're still fighting them and haven't defeated them. Maybe we're not defeating anybody. And it's time the American public demanded answers as to why we can't beat a ragtag army with no planes and no ships. Time to call them out. Where are we next? Of course, there was the announcement this week of Prince Harry getting married to Meghan Markle, an American, so they say. Anyone else thinks she looks like Pippa Middleton? Something to have a look at and think of over there as to why that would take place. NASA, apparently now, again this was going to go in a news piece but it overran, so NASA apparently are being taken to court to force them into admitting that alien life exists. But to me, why would NASA admitting what we already know make any difference? Is it going to make a difference? Many who listen to this show have already had their own experiences, so why are we taking NASA to court, wasting money? 32 countries have released all the files on ETs, detailing craft, entities, you name it. They've all been released. 32 countries. Maybe the gist of it is the people just want the synths or the sleepers to know. But the problem is, what if they don't want to listen? Because that gets clear as time goes on. Some people just don't want to hear anything. Like last week, the Pope told everyone that Jesus was metaphorical. Did that make a difference? Not really. And there kind of lies the problem. At what point does disclosure make a difference? It will in some avenues. Pedogate being an example. Corruption of various entities in political arenas or military areas. But if the people continue to ignore it, where do we go? Well, we've gone quite far, despite the silence from the sleepers. The sound of silence. And yes, they are disturbed, because you'd have to be disturbed to not see it by now. But the fact that Jesus, the popes turn around and says Jesus is metaphorical. And yet, there'll be many who listen to this show who are preparing for his so-called birthday coming up. Are they not? Again, it's been disclosed, but we still carry on doing the same things. The Pope announced in November of 2013 that Jesus wasn't born on Christmas Day, and yet we still carry on. That's why they carry on, because we keep falling for the same nonsense, even when they tell you. Of course, Cassandra mentioned that. Well, you just gobbled it all up. We have to stop doing that and thinking about what we're doing and how we're acting. One piece of word magic may surprise somebody or some. Did you know the root word of Uber, of the taxi people, is vampire? Of course, they're the next ones to be challenged. Now, there was, came in late, a magnitude 4.4, but also a 5.1 in Delaware this afternoon. All of them are below 10 kilometres. Delaware, for those of you in Europe, is not far from Washington, not far from the Pentagon, not far from Langley either. Maybe they have underground tunnels that might have needed collapsing. There's a lot of earthquakes today, right round the Ring of Fire, and also right along what I think is the 33rd parallel. It wasn't just an unusual one in Delaware. There's the usual ones in Oklahoma. There seems to be 2 or 3 of them a day, and one close to Los Angeles. But there's some in Idaho, Wyoming, northern Nevada, not far from Salt Lake, not far from Ogden, certain military place. And also in Tennessee, stroke Kentucky. Make of that what you will. Where are we for time? Well, I was going to do a piece on Black Friday, and we've all seen the videos, and whilst I don't wish to turn it into a racist piece, some people will always see it the minute you mention colour. It's the race card comes out. It's not that intention. There's enough white people doing stupid things and crime and criminality. In fact, most of what we cover is to do with white collar crime. Be it governments in Europe, America, Canada. But the videos of people of colour fighting over so-called bargains in shops is the worst representation of humanity I've ever seen. Is that all we have to offer? If we're going to make the change, is that the way we're going to react? Because I don't think that's civilized. The black people You're better than that. Many black people amongst you, very clever, very bright, articulate. Why have you got people doing that? So many. There was barely a white face to be seen. They're all fighting. Hispanic people as well. I saw a number of videos and it involved two colours, the black and the Hispanic. Again, you people are better than that. It's not the way humanity needs to be acting. You're not getting bargains for one day. You're getting raped for 364 days. Because if they can sell it for that amount on that day, they can sell it for that amount for the rest of the year. And the sooner people realise that, the better, and go, you know what, we're not buying your products, where you're creating a frenzy that we must have something. That's programming. And we've got to push each other over and punch each other and shoot each other for a few products out of a store. The very store that's raped you the rest of the year. Is that a good example we're setting? Is that thinking and acting differently? Well, clearly it's not. And clearly, have a word with your people. And please stop that nonsense. It doesn't look well for humanity going forward if that's the way we're going to act. Now, can you imagine if some disaster happened in an EMP, for argument's sake, when there's no food left? If that's the way they're fighting over a few trinkets and gadgets, it's not civilized. And we have to learn to grow up. And wasn't an example of it. Right, we're going to have a music break and then we're going to come back with some questions. What are we going with next? Maybe this is what the people who went to the Black Friday let the light shine down, because it wasn't shining very bright watching those videos. Hi all and welcome back to the final hour tonight. Haven't let your light shine down. We all need to shine more light. I know many feel that everything's dark at the moment. I do understand that. I just wish I could say more. There is a lot of positive things going on, but it will all be revealed when it's safe to do so. I've said this all along, but whether you trust my word or you don't, I can tell you there's a lot going on at the moment, and maybe we'll get that special show sooner rather than later. Where are we next? Some questions. Whenever we make a claim on insurance or register for a service, we have to give or confirm our data of birth. Indeed. Though we are told it's for security purposes. Yeah, right. Is it for any other reason, like financial adjustments to our birth certificates, bond accounts? Yes, it is. It's to make sure which accounts, private accounts, they can collect your funds from. Birth. B-E-R-T-H. As in ship. The ship is docked down the canal. The waters break. It's all there. Maritime law on the birth certificates. I'm hoping will be addressed in the future, but don't expect the money off it. It can't be paid If it's just stopped, and we have an abundance of what we need in basic necessities, I think that will be sufficient for most people. There'll always be people who want their X number of millions, but it can't be paid. But certain things should be put in place where people never struggle again. There's enough money there for many hundreds of years without creating more, as long as it's repurposed for a better world. So that's kind of what they're doing. They're saying it's not just insurance, so applies to lots of things. Mortgages is another one. The bank then goes and collects out of your account and takes the money, and then charges you for their loan, which is from if you're in the US, they're from the Federal Reserve. If you're in the UK, it's from the Bank of England. They go and borrow 9 times the mortgage amount, and you're paying back their loan, not yours. This is in the UK. They are offering free cancer testing in a local supermarket in the UK. Are you aware of these free tests, and do you know if this is a cabal scam to gain more funds by incorrectly diagnosing us with cancer? There's been a big push over the last few years with, 23andMe and a whole heap of others, for people to send their DNA in. Again, I've warned of that, but people, curiosity gets the better of them and sends samples in. You have no idea what they're doing with them, or what they can do with them. Why are they testing for cancer when they had the cure in 1926? The German came up with the cure. They killed them the following year. So anything that's free, it's like the program to give free phones out in America the last few years. And people go, oh great, I've got a phone. No, you've just become part of the tracking system. They wanted to track everybody. And this is kind of what's going on with technology, and why I keep warning of it. Because every piece of it is being used to collect data on us. Credit cards are the same thing. We've all gotten used to that and the convenience of it. But it's data mining. And until we take over and repurpose that, it's everything you do digitally, whether it be with a phone or tablet or internet or these stupid Alexas and home security, it's all collecting data on you and your family. When you're awake, when you sleep, what you get up to with your partner, everything, what your kids are doing. You've no idea how far they can go. And that's why I keep warning of it. So there's obviously a scheme behind the free cancer. And yes, like the doctor in Wisconsin, I think it was, who deliberately misdiagnosed 2,300 patients. So he can collect $300,000 per patient. So there's 2 aspects to that. I'll see if I can make this is from a Dutch person, so sometimes it's broken English a bit, but I think I get the gist of it. The Jehovah's Witnesses are so secret, yep, they're also following a bogus rogue god as well, but there you go. But a few years back I heard an interview on Nibiru on a Dutch website, and there was a man that wrote a book about the Jehovah's Witness. He say behind this is a secret, or they are in negotiations of weapons. What do you know about this? Not a lot, other than Jehovah's Witnesses are another cult. Like most religions, it is a cult. So they can create a cult when people talk about culture, no, it's pulling you into a cult. Farsight Institute remote viewing of Area 51 in the spring of 2017, and on the extremely deep underground levels there are still some reptilians guarding a chimera section of the lab to have the status of the DUMBs and treaties with alien races. I don't have the full status of the DUMBs. I know it's ongoing. Many have been cleared out. Some treaties with the alien races have been cancelled. The Trans-Pacific is nothing to do with countries, it's to do with off-world. The Transatlantic also. Off-world trade. As regards reptilians in Area 51, I would suggest not. Following a raid in 2013, most of them fled. And mainly it wasn't reptilians, it was tall greys. Most of them fled in the tunnels that went through, goes all the way through California and out to the island off the military island, until one of those tunnels got collapsed. But there is other vast underground network of tunnels, and from what I know, most of them fled north to Dugway. A lot of fun and games in Dugway, but there's also been a lot of clearing going on. Do you think there's more to the missing Argentine sub story, or is it just an unfortunate accident? With the South American connection to Nazis and their base in Antarctica, is it possible that this is just another casualty of the cabal infighting? That is a strong possibility. The curious thing is, I go on a website to look when earthquakes take place, so you can get the up-to-date data of how deep those particular earthquakes were. And if they're around 10 kilometers, it's more than likely HAARP. So it also tells you of other incidents going on, planes going down, or planes near misses, or hurricanes, you name it. It's all on that particular site. RSEO or SOE, RSOE. I think it's a Hungarian site. Now the curious thing, if you go on there, is the media have been telling us that it was lost just south of Mar the Playa, I think the name of the place, or Plate. And they're scouring that particular region. Now this event site, so that's in the Atlantic, on the east coast of South America, where it's allegedly gone missing, and yet according to the event site, the submarine went missing in the Pacific. So there is more than meets the eye that's going on down there. It may be you had it right with the Nazis. Maybe it's another paperclip where they were all fleeing again. Maybe they're not fleeing now. They are. Or where? Is the Maltese cross a representation representation of the cone's black-white hole you mentioned, yes, it's similar. You know, it flares out at the top or the bottom. Of course, it can go either way. But one end is open and one end is narrow. They're correct. And, of course, if you look at the sun in certain infrared, it shows you the same. Because it's a vortex in and a vortex out. That's why it's a portal, which then allows certain beings, including humans, to be able to go through. The ones that can't go through themselves have to use craft. And there's sufficient videos showing certain craft or certain comets that may be hollowed out craft going in and out of the sun. Where are we next? I have now for about 4 or 5 days heard numerous booms, so much so I feel it through the ground. I'm 5 minutes from the Gulf, and in the last 30 minutes there's been about 20 booms. Could this be above rather than in the water? Well, you're not far from CENTCOM. Maybe there's fun and games going on in there. You'll know where I'm referring to. But yes, there is certain sightings above as well. Saw 2 examples myself today. Suddenly they're not as cloaked as we thought they were. How do we know when we're communicating with our higher selves as opposed to some kind of wishful thinking thoughts? There is no wishful thinking thoughts. They're manifestations. I mentioned this last year. Your manifest abilities are a lot higher than they've ever been. Certain things had collapsed and come down. So your connection to Source and the higher self is more open now than it has been for thousands of years. So you may wish to call it wishful thinking, but if everyone wishful thinks, then that wishful thinking becomes reality. Now, with regards to communicating with your higher selves, if you've done your inner work and your shadow sides and cleared out a lot of the baggage and got in touch with your heart center, whether that's through mainly through meditation, you'll know if it's your higher self or if it's not, because of the resonance that comes off it. An inner knowing, the gnosis. So I can't tell you that this is your higher self, only you can tell that, and I don't care who else thinks that on the internet they can connect with your Akashic record and all this bollocks. And give us $300 and I'll access your Akashic record. Scam artists, a lot of them. I don't care what name they are or how big they are on the internet. You access your Akashic record once you've attained that level of resonance within yourself. It's all inside of you. The worst thing we ever did as a species is accepted something from the outside. On all levels. Help from Draco, help from Arcturians and Pleiadians. That's the convenience issue again, isn't it? Thinking we can't solve things ourselves. Well, if we can't solve things ourselves, we will always need parents and entities to look after us. Is that what we want to continue? Well, those that listen to this show, clearly not. So once you connect with your heart center, everything you need to know or wish to know, once you've reached a level of understanding, which is your own personal evolution, eventually comes to you rather than you going to it. This is how wisdom is gained, and obtaining knowledge. The higher you personally evolve yourself, and you can only do that with a reasonably clear vessel, i.e. not carrying trauma, baggage, angst, insecurities, fears. They're just muddying the resonant frequency. So you can have all the galactic waves coming in, but it's just bouncing off because your whole vessel is full of trauma. Like the water. You know, we said this last week. You write love on a glass of water, and you're going to get the benefits from it. You write hate on it, and you're going to be ill. So, you know, is that wishful thinking? No, that's setting the intention. And that's what it's all about, setting the intention. You will know. Do you have any info on a strange light burst seen numerous places lately? Some are wondering about this being from a space war that is coming into our sight now. It's possible. I don't have the full details on that. I've seen some uncloaking take place today. So that may be part of it. I'll ask for more info tonight maybe and see if I can get anything that comes back. Okay. Is being psychopathic a natural human condition or possibly an indication of parasitic control? Are we being run by maniacs, as John Lennon said in 1968, or actual non-human entities? Both. No, it's not a normal condition. It is evidence of parasitic archontic control, and also evidence of interference by human and non-human entities. So it has a range of things. And I'm going to mention it again for about the 50th time tonight. The danger of technology is all about frequencies. We've all heard of the concern over Wi-Fi. So you change the frequency. You make people psychopathic. You make people love people they wouldn't do the day before. You can judge depending on what frequency you set it at. And these people know how the frequencies. That's what the MK Ultra and the Montauk and all that stuff's been about, and testing kids with machines. You know, and heaven forbid what they've been doing in the so-called mental institutions. You know, there's the full story of what took place in those places has never really been brought to the light of day. Yes, there's been isolated videos that have shown up. Well, there's people that were thrown in there just because they got pregnant before they were married, back in the day, and subjected to all kinds of experimentation. But yes, parasitic control. The AI is parasitic control. The Archon issue. So, I hope that answers your question. On the website of Alistair, we had on in a recent show an evening with Thomas, which was rather good. I read that certain events like arrests in high society circles will eventually occur in Europe. Any idea how long it might take before that happens? Back to the time questions. 2 weeks. I have no idea. I certainly wouldn't be putting it out on this show, because there's a lot of things wrapped up that needs to be kept wrapped until the present is unveiled. What effect could it have on everyday life? Well, for the alternative media, depending on who gets arrested, I might add, because certain are suggesting it mightn't have the impact that we were looking for. Just because there's maybe 20 people being arrested in Texas doesn't mean to say one of them is, or a number is, the Bush family. Just because there's a number being arrested or indicted in Arkansas doesn't necessarily equate to being the Clintons. I would love it to be both and all of them. But we have to see when they eventually get unveiled and unsealed is who gets thrown under the bus. People like me will then kind of look through that list and see where it's heading. Because if it's all the big names, then there's going to be, the alternative media is going to be high-fiving each other and all happy days. But we still have to replace them people with better. Not allow the cabal to just substitute another clan in their place. Soros is dead, but the name lives on. Why? Because it's a whole part of a network. Soros was just one tiny piece of it. We might think he was a big player. The reality is he's not. No more than Bush is, Obama was, or Clinton is. They're just puppets, pawns. Or the wealthy pawns, at our expense, I might add. There's a long list of deaths that have gone before those people, which needs to be accounted for, and they need to be tried for. But if the people, the key is how many on the outside of the ones awake are going to absorb it into their everyday life. That's the key. Because they're going to ignore, like what the Pope said last week. Will they ignore Bush being arrested? Or Clinton being arrested? And if a Clinton gets arrested, is every Democrat going to be up in arms? You know, if you're still following party politics as an awake person, you really need to rethink that strategy. You know, there's a lot of Democrats being done, but if you think the Republican Party's clean, again, you really need to think that rethink that strategy. They're all part of the same machine. They just give you the illusion that they're fighting each other once they get away from the cameras and the conferences. They're all backslapping each other. How much do you make on that deal and how much do you make on this deal? Not interested in the people, but I've been. So the key is how the sleepers absorb the information and what they do with it. It could be a trigger where they, and I've said this before, they will drive higher levels of disclosure if those people wake up to that and absorb that reality. They're going to be far more angry than we were, because we've done it in a slow, drip-fed way, where we've absorbed it all. They're getting it thrown right in the face. These are the same people that all think we're nuts, that roll their eyes, that have discarded us. Good luck with carrying that guilt. So that's the key. If it was up to me, I would shut down the media for a month. So no TV programs, no banal Big Brother and other reality TV shows, proper reality with proper truth of what's going on in the now, what has gone on in the past, and what we will expect for the future. And until certain goons step down, no more TV. That would be my solution, because it's the key to everything. The media, the portal people, they're the ones who deliver the bullshit. What is the difference between true north and magnetic north, and which is the organic one? It's not necessarily organic in any way. There's a difference between the two. The magnetic version is always moving as planet crusts are kind of fluid. Well, it certainly is in the north, not in the south. And the gap between the two changes each year. Now, currently, from what I recollect, are about 500 kilometres apart. So they're not both on the same spot. This is the north. And the magnetic north is somewhere around, I think it's called Ellesmere Island in Canada. But what I do know is it started to accelerate at the rate of 40 kilometres a year, which is a big change from the 5 to 10 it used to do. And it's heading towards Siberia. Now this could be part of the shift, where it's going off the 23-degree tilt, which is to the left, and going right. So then it'll be true north and magnetic north again. Now in the ancient past, I think it was 750,000 years to 1,000,000 years ago, we actually had a magnetic south pole on Earth, not north. And there was a pole shift, and now it's north. Now the issue of having a precise anchor for a flag on the North Pole, you can't do, because it's a floating ice sheet. So you put the flag, and there's the North Pole, and then the ice sheet moves and slides, and that pole's moving with it. And it might not be where the North is, which is different from the South Pole, as you can plant the flag, and the flag's been there a while. Why? Because the South Pole is a landmass. Big difference. So that's the limited bit I know on north and magnetic north. True north and magnetic north. Where are we next? Is executive more word spell related to execute, as in Latin executere, from Latin execute, yeah, or to follow out or follow to the grave? Well, you know the way business works, they'd have us all working to our death if they could get away with it. And sadly, in the sweatshops, many do. You know, I was looking at Google. Some of the people in Google stay in work and go in sleep pods. I mean, you can't get a definition of stupid bigger than that. The AI tell them, or the company running the AI telling people to go in pods. Humanity's been in pods for a long time. You just don't see it. And again, this is something they do. So they think it's fun, it's right in your face. Except shows like this will expose it and hopefully get people to wake up to it. So, yes, they make executive, which is cut, executive decisions. Execute being the operative word, mainly. Is the term manager a word spell with deeper meaning than the etymology for manage, Latin hand, or Italian maneggiare, to handle, especially to control the horse? Are those middlemen women needed to indeed used to grind us into old age by design? Well, if you've had some of the bosses like I've had, yes, certain ones of them can age you drastically. So, a man-ager being the operative word. The Italian Latin hand placed on man is controlling, is it not? Maybe look at it in those terms. The veil is thinning to where some people can see it. Yes. Or is this some type of manifestation? No, the veil is thinning. That's why some of the cloaking done via chemtrails is rampant. Certain portions of it are more open than others. Of course, the ozone layer opened up big time, and of course they tell you it's all radiation and we're all going to die. What if that was the veil? The ozone layer. Are more people starting to sense disturbances in the magnetic field? They should do, because there's a lot of movement going on. There's the changes on the planets. There's changes with the sun. There's changes in the solar system, and there's changes coming in from the galaxy and the galactic center. And there's changes coming from below our feet also. And this is some of the buzzing that people are experiencing, or the lightheadedness, or the lack of balance. Some people may experience it in that way, but it does settle down, and it's not something to be worried about. Captain Max Steel sounds like something out of a Marvel magazine. is reporting a Bluebeam attack is planned for California on Christmas. Can you confirm or deny it? I'm going to deny that. Interesting question. Not a surprise, given the person who asked it. But, do synthetics know what they are? No. They just don't. They've bought into a different version of the illusion that we have. We woke up to the illusion. They're still in it. And the person went on to say I had a recent experience with one, and if they weren't, then they were just the best damned MK Ultra product yet. People will see a lot more of this. I'm sure there's a lot of people going, yeah, at this moment. They're breaking down. In fact, I'm going to, how are we for time? Oh, we're okay, another 10 minutes. What I've noticed, and people will agree with this heavily, is do you not see everything breaking down? It doesn't matter what you do during the day, whether you drive around, you've got goons all over the place. So nothing, a simple drive down the road turns into an ordeal. Nothing ever runs smoothly anymore. You have a banking transaction. Does it always go smooth? No, there's always some half-wit behind the desk who can't add up or can't give you the correct piece of paper. Or if you phone anyone up, they don't comprehend anything. And I could go on for another hour listing these things. Or you order something and the thing turns up either broke or the wrong thing. Time and time and time again. Or you click on a video that doesn't work, the sound's not right. These are just some examples. You go to click on a link and something else comes up. Nothing seems to work the way it should do anymore. Everything is off. You have an interaction with somebody else. It doesn't go smoothly. It's kind of frightening when you look back. Observe your day. Go through tomorrow and see how many things don't go the way they should go. You'll be surprised if you haven't already experienced it. You call cable companies, you call the banks. They just mess up. Or they don't understand what you're saying. Just basic things. You order a mattress, the wrong one turns up. Yes, Holly. You order internet, it takes them 3 weeks to bring it. 3 weeks for internet. Is that an example of how customer service is supposed to work? No. You count through the day how many times nothing works the way it should do anymore. It's because of them. They're collapsing in on themselves. And to finish this question off, this may explain the sharp increase in individuals with narcissistic behaviours. Yeah. Absolutely. And more bizarre behaviour as well. Whether they're driving, bumping into you like you don't exist, walking along the road. And if you happen to pick up a cheap television, you get thumped in the mouth if it's Black Friday. Oh dear. I think that's it for the questions. Yeah.
one on, I'm going to do a bigger piece on it. There's one, the one person who asked about Anu, Endor, Enki, Nephilim, Anunnaki, Elohim, fallen angels, and giants. Some of the giants have fell. I may do a piece on that for next week and explain some more details on that. Most of those people and those entities, you can wrap it all in one little package and call it Anunnaki. Like all of them. Or Draco. Archangels and all the rest of it. So if I get time for next week, I will cover that in a longer piece. Right, that's about it for this week. No intel, as I stated, but there's a few bits in there that we need to be aware of. As the hammer falls on the cabal, we have to be vigilant. We have to be aware of their sideshows. Some of the hammer falls are part of the war within the war, which is the faction fighting, which we will get benefits from. But it still leaves clowns hiding in our midst, and the fight to remove them will go on until we obtain a proper balance. And that's encouraging. There's so much that's being exposed now. It's where we go with it and how we deal with it. We can't kind of rest on our laurels because X, Y, and Z gets arrested in the next month. There's still the hidden hand. There's still the deep state for America. There's still the MI5 and 6 groups who are not interested in the people of Britain. None whatsoever. No more than the agency here are interested in Americans. Not all of them. Sadly, far too many of them. And we must continue to push for disclosure on all things, whether it's ETs, which is kind of funny in many ways because we've already had that, but someone rubber stamped, and somebody else must say it better than them. So maybe if it comes from David Wilcock or if it comes from Obama or Trump, it carries more validity. No one carries more validity than your own experiences. That's the biggest change anyone can make, is within themselves. You control what's within you and your sphere of influence. What other people do is irrelevant. Now when there's a number doing that, cabal doing this and cabal doing that, has no relevance. And eventually they will come down. I've got no doubts about that. I never have. But the key is, how ugly does it have to get before we get over the finish line? So far, it's not too bad, although I opened the show with disappointment that so many people are struggling. One of our former guests, Peter Eyre, announced this week he's got cancer. I'm sure all our members will wish him a speedy recovery, and we'll go forward. Before I forget, there'll be an evening with Thomas this Sunday. I'll have to contact her and remind her. Another thing I should have done and forgotten. Janet Elliott will be coming on and tell us some interesting stories about her life. So look forward to that. I still haven't contacted Max Egan. I will try to do that this week. There's lots going on and busy times. Right, I hope you've enjoyed the show. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. And the last song going out says it all. Bye for now.